is a deeper question altogether, which is, what do you desire? What makes you itch? What sort of a situation would you like? Let's suppose I do this often in vocational guidance of students, and they come to me and say, well, we're getting out of college, and we have the faintest idea what we want to do. So I always ask the question, what would you like to do? If money were no object, what would? How would you really enjoy spending your life? Well, it's so amazing as a result of our kind of educational system. Crowds of students say, well, we'd like to be painters. We'd like to be poets. We'd like to be writers. But as everybody knows, you can't earn any money that way. Or another person says, well, I'd like to live in out-of-doors life and ride horses. I said, you want to teach in a riding school? Let's go through with it. What do you want to do? When we finally got down to something which the individual says he really wants to do, I will say to him, you do that and forget the money. Because if you insist that making money is the chief concern, you will spend your days utterly throwing your life away. You'll keep on doing things you have no love for, just so you can go on existing, that is, to go on doing the very things you have no love for, which is absurd. Far better to have a short life, overflowing with what delights you, than a long, drawn-out existence spent in drudgery. And after all, if you truly enjoy what you're doing, it doesn't matter what that thing is. Sooner or later, you can become astonishingly good at it. That's the only road to mastery, to be completely absorbed in it. And when you're truly absorbed, people will gladly pay you well for it. So we needn't fuss about whether what you love is something others approve of. There will always be people who share that interest. In anything you can care about, others will care too. But it's downright foolish to waste your days doing what you hate, just to keep on doing what you hate, and worse, to teach your children to follow that same stupid path. Look what we're doing. We raise children, schooling them to repeat the very kind of lives we secretly despise. And all of this so they can, in turn, justify their existence by raising their own children. To raise their own children, to do the same, round and round, like an endless retching, a great heave of vomit that never ever arrives anywhere. And so it becomes terribly important to sit with this question, what do I truly want? And when we first answer that, naively, childishly, we imagine we want to be gods of control, to bend the world entirely to our will, to make women who never grow old, fruit that never spoils, clothes that never tear, the machines that move us anywhere in an instant. So we never wait. Power to do anything we can dream of and do it, snap, just like that. This strange fantasy of technological omnipotence, but if you stop for a moment and really follow that idea to its end with the full strength of your imagination, you will see that's not what you actually want. Because the instant you live in a world where you are fully in control, where the future is perfectly predictable, you will discover, as I said before, a future that is entirely predictable is no future at all. It's the past, replayed. You've already had it, and that's not what you long for. You want surprise, and you don't know what the surprise will be, because, of course, if you did, it wouldn't be a surprise. You want delightful surprises. But then you ask, what kind of surprise would be delightful? And you can't answer, because if you allow pleasant surprises, you must also allow unpleasant ones. You can't have one without the other. It's like playing one of those carnival lucky dip games. If you reach into the box, eyes closed, and pull something out, you don't know if you're getting a jewel or a dead rat. And that, you see, that seems to be the thing that really excites people. But, quite inevitably, when you follow this question deeply, you come to a great disillusionment with this whole ideal of power. To be powerful, to be in control, is not something any sane person truly wants. Now, you might object and say, but isn't that just shirking responsibility? If you were really a responsible human being, you would seek power and use it wisely for the good of all. All right then, the good of all. What exactly is that? Ask them, ask the people, well, here I am, absolute dictator, what would you have me do? And of course nobody knows, because they've never thought it through. They imagine all sorts of quick fixes, little short-term wishes, and they are hopelessly contradictory, because, as it turns out, nobody, and I mean nobody, really wants to be God. And I think this is perhaps the greatest lesson the Western world has yet to learn, because we are utterly obsessed with this idea of power, of control, of making everything go the right way. And we have never once stopped to ask, and when you finally get control, what then? And when you actually follow that question to the end, you see quite clearly, you don't want power. You don't want control over people at all. And so, in this search for what you do want, you eventually arrive at the point where every pleasure is laid out before you at command. And it all begins to feel dull. You start inventing new pleasures, and eventually you get like the ancient Romans, who had all these mad crowds of barbarians who had to go every Saturday to the Colosseum for a show that really had to surpass everything, because they had public baths, they had prostitutes, they had every kind of luxury. But when they went to see one of the big shows that people like Nero put on, they would have, for example, floats circling the Colosseum, all full of slave girls from distant parts of the Mediterranean, garlanded with flowers and waving at the crowd and going innocently around. In the next minute, they would release wild lions into the arena to eat up all the slave girls. They got a big sadistic kick out of that, because you see, pursuing pleasure beyond a certain place takes you into what the Buddhists call the Naraka world. That is to say, the hells. When you have explored pleasure to its ultimate limit, the only thing you can get a kick out of is pain. So naturally you descend from the devil world at the top of the wheel to the Naraka world at the bottom, where it shows all these beings in states of torture. You get to the hell world as a result of not knowing what you want, as a result of thoughtless pursuit of pleasure, which ends you eventually in the pursuit of pain. So when you're in the hell, well, that's where you want to be. So when I ask, I go right down to the question, should be started with, what do I want? The answer is, I don't know. When Bodhidharma was asked, who are you? Which is another form of the same question. He said, I don't know planting flowers to which the butterflies come. Bodhidharma says, I know not. I don't know whatever. Well, when you don't know what you want, you've really reached the state of desirelessness. When you really don't know, did you see there's a beginning stage of not knowing and there's an ending stage of not knowing? In the beginning stage, you don't know what you want because you haven't thought about it. Or you've only thought superficially. And then when somebody forces you to think about it and go through and say, yeah, I think I like this. I think I like that. I think I'd like the other as the middle stage. Then you get beyond that. Say, is that what I really want? In the end, you say, no, I don't think that's it. I might be satisfied with it for a while and I wouldn't turn my nose up at it. But it's not really what I want. Why don't you really know what you want? 2 reasons. Number 1, you have it. Number 2, you don't know yourself because you never can. The Godhead is never an object of its own knowledge. Just as a knife doesn't cut itself, fire doesn't burn itself, light doesn't illumine itself. It's always an endless mystery to itself. I don't know. This I don't know is the same thing as I love. I let go. I don't try to force or control. It's the same thing as humility. Anytime you, as it were, voluntarily let up control. In other words, cease to cling to yourself. You have an access of power because you're wasting energy all the time in self-defense. Trying to manage things, trying to force things to conform to your will. The moment you stop doing that, that wasted energy is available. Therefore, you are, in that sense, having that energy available, you are one with the divine principle. You have the energy when you're trying, however, to act as if you were God. That is to say, you don't trust anybody. And you're the dictator and you have to keep everybody in line. You lose the divine energy because what you're doing is simply defending yourself. So then the principle is, the more you give it away, the more it comes back